Morning, market chameleons, and soon to appear Dimitri Pargamana. Good to see you, Dima.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Awesome. Is anything going on but coin this morning? I mean, it
I
seems like
think it's
that's on
just
all the
one.
lists.
Yep.
Before we get
Everything.
started, let's get on with the disclaimer.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not broker dealers. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to help answer your questions, provide you with guidance. There's a disclaimer.
Excellent. So what's moving around in the pre-market? Anything interesting?
Yeah, take a look. So right now, I got the pre-market report up. We'll take a look what's trading in pre-market hours. And I think, because a lot of the questions coming in are about Coinbase. So maybe we'll just take a look at the activity there, how it traded yesterday, take a look at like the VWAP table and see if we could get any insights.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. We had our old friend Sean Feeney jump into the chat yesterday, and I think he said it would open somewhere between 12:30 and 1:30 was what they were thinking inside the NASDAQ. So it'll be interesting to see where the actual opening print was.
Yeah, and that's because they have to queue up all the different orders from different brokers, kind of try to come up with the opening price, a fair one, and then just kind of let it go because you got, bids and offers all over the place. And, I heard some of the bids were like, over $1,000. Obviously, they're just looking to get the opening print, so they didn't buy it at $1,000, but there were very aggressive bids in the morning. And I think it was indicated the day before to open at $250. And I think it ended up actually opening at 380, something around there. Right. We'll take a look.
Well, interestingly enough, the last round of private fundraising valued it at like 8 billion. And I think where it went off yesterday, it was like 85 billion.
So 85, so way higher. Yeah, 10
way
times.
Higher. Way higher.
Yeah. And I think I read, I think Kathy Woods was also getting invested yesterday into it. So,
well, I did hear she sold a chunk of Tesla stock and actually bought coin and Bitcoin. So
that's really interesting, because that's, because she's been, very aggressively promoting Tesla stocks. So that's interesting that she did that. But and I'm sure we'll hear more from her because she's very out there public and talking about her thesis behind her trades. And so definitely we'll keep an eye out on that. But here's in the pre-market hours, we got the most active list, most active stocks trading in pre-market hours, biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. Top of the list, I see TAOP, and I think this one is a crypto company or has to do with mining, up 20%, and looks like they may have signed some kind of an agreement, so they're jumping up on that news, up 20%, 1.2 million shares. This is a $59 million market cap stock. Here's Coin, fourth on the list, up 7.8%, and at this, as of yesterday's close, 61 billion market cap. I'm going to go to see what's going on in the higher market cap stocks, and maybe then we'll just take a look at Coinbase and see what it did at the open, how the stock traded throughout the day. And so let's just go here. I see Dell Computer making the top of the list on this. I'm using this filter right now. Market cap 20 billion or higher. Looks up 7.7%, and I think they're doing a spinoff. So the shareholders, are rewarding it for that. So it looks like the VMware, they're going to be spinning it off. Dell up 7.7%. Coin up 7.2%. So $352 in the pre-market hours. That's still below that opening print, 380. Right, so now we're trading $350, up 6.6%. Here's the pre-market VWAP, price, $355, traded as low as $346 in the pre-market, as high as $369. If we look at, this is how it looks, the graph looks like in the pre-market hours. Longest VWAP bar between $352, $353, 189,000 shares. And I think everybody knows what Coinbase is. If not, we'll just quickly say that's like one of the first exchanges that allowed, retail folks to kind of open an account and buy Bitcoin, then Ethereum, and all these other, and they make it pretty easy, right? So I think that they're regulated by some entity. I'm not sure, by some entity. So it is an exchange. They are regulated by some entity, but you can go there, open an account, fund it like through your bank, right? Move money into there, and then they make it really easy to just buy a cryptocurrency, and they hold it in their wallet, right? So you kind of, instead of holding, you could move it into your own wallet, but when you buy it, it's kind of in the Coinbase wallet. Is that correct, Will?
That is how I understand it. They've made it, well, it's some great pieces on the founder. If anyone gets a chance, read about him. He's an interesting cat, but he basically, was working for different tech companies and had a couple startups, but came absolutely addicted to the concept of cryptocurrencies and wanted to give access to everyone. So that became his mission. And that was like, I don't know, 8-9 years ago. So he wanted to make it easy, because it's still not incredibly easy, but certainly they've made it much easier than it was, 8-9 years ago.
To buy these, to buy these coins, to buy the, and I think on the website also, they do have some, because I did buy coins through Coinbase, and they do have some educational pieces where they talk about the coins, and, you could link to the white papers and what these projects are doing. And I think there was a ruling by the SEC I think it was this week, they created a rule where they're giving like a 3-year safe harbor for projects to do ICOs, use the money to program, create their protocol without having to register their currencies as securities. And then after 3 years, they have to revisit it and determine, is it a security? Then they have to register it. If it's not a security, if it's decentralized, then it remains like a crypto token, right? So the SEC was looking, they're kind of giving like a little bit of a green light for that ICO market to start developing. So that could be good news for I think those cryptos. And the Ethereum, I think, is really the one that kind of is making the biggest excitement, because after Ethereum, now you're seeing all these other protocols being built. But let me know if there are questions about that. What I'm going to do right now is just kind of go to Coinbase, and we see here, this is where it closed, $328 yesterday. So we see this is the range, 310, 429. And I'm just going to go look at how it traded yesterday. So this is what it looked like. It opened up around 130, kind of right off the bat, started going up, and then kind of after that, just kind of down. So that's kind of what it looked like yesterday and settled over here. I'm going to just take a look at these stats.
Let me ask you something. Where do you think, just out of curiosity, since we're looking at this, Sean said that the options will be listed probably early next week.
Yeah.
Where do you think, like, I don't know, you think there'll be 800, like the furthest out, highest calls? Where do you think they'll price? Any guesses?
That's good. Do you know the answer?
No, I don't. I'm just thinking in my head, like, you look at some of these, like, the way these products have moved, like I would think like the highest strike maybe in the 800s. That's a guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So for shits and giggles, let's say it's the 800. Is it, $2, 250, something like that.
Yeah, what would those options? Yeah, what is the
Yeah.
volatility of the stock? Obviously, yesterday the volatility was enormous. Like, I mean, look at the, it went up to $429, then down to 310. We're back, like, that's a lot of volatility. It's first day. They also did what's called like a direct listing, right? So they didn't go through the banks. They just kind of just directly listed on the exchange. I'm not sure if that creates more volatility at the beginning. I'm not completely positive. If there's banks involved, if they have inventory to sell, but you could see here there's a lot of volatility yesterday, $100 range, over $100 range. So if we just took the VWAP yesterday, that the VWAP price $370.65. So that's the volume weighted average price of the shares trading. So $10 below, I think, the opening. You can see the minute to minute standard deviation, $28. So that's the average standard deviation. I'm going to come down here first.
Just for clarification, the chameleons are all chatting about your comment. They just want to know, do you have a Coinbase account? Have you bought? I think they're asking if you bought crypto. So
I did. I have a Coinbase account. I bought cryptos, and really mostly, a lot of trades that I do is kind of just to learn and educate myself on how things work. So, I do things sometimes just in little bits of pieces, just to kind of, force myself to read about it and learn and educate what's going on. How do these things work? Like, what are these ledgers? What are these gas fees? What are these, what are these wallets? How do I move money around? Like, what is the objective of, the goal of, this native coin? Like, what are they trying to build? And do I think it's going to be useful? And what is the community behind, some of these projects? So a lot of interesting things are going on there, especially, with, I think, once Ethereum created that platform where you could go in Ethereum and use it to create other applications, right? With blockchain technology. That kind of opened up the doors to and opportunities to a lot of projects, and I think that we're going to be impacted behind the scenes with a lot of these technologies going forward that they're working on. And I view it right now as, they call the blockchain the Internet 2.0, basically, where the first part of the internet, we started moving data around and information, and now we're going to be moving money around the internet. How do we do banking on the internet?
And it's not just money, right? It could be anything. Investments, real estate, ownership of companies, cars, how, it's
voting. I think in Switzerland right now, because the way the blockchain works is that it's kind of immutable, like, so things are getting verified by these computers that are scattered around the world using this code, and everything needs to get validated. And I think, that means that, nobody should be able to tamper with that information. And like right now in Switzerland, I believe it's in Switzerland, they're even using this blockchain technology on their voting system. So you could have one party saying, well, an election was rigged, it's unfair, there's interference, or they didn't count.
That will never happen in a developed country.
Right. So it never happens like here in America, but in other countries that they fear that could happen, they're using blockchain technology to say, well, there's a ledger, and every vote should count. And if you voted, you should be able to check if your vote counted. But it's immutable because it needs to get verified. It needs to have this confirmation process that's using very complicated mathematical formulas, technology with cryptography. But, you know, if we look at just how our financial system works in general right now with our banking system, Federal Reserve, the stock exchanges, and all the clearing that's going in the background with, you know, keeping records and ledgers, supposedly this will be able to change our clearing system to make it more efficient, fairer, faster. Um, nobody can, it's not centralized, so nobody controls it, and no single entity, you know, should be able to control it or affect it in a way that advantages them and disadvantages everybody else. There are problems with it, right? So there's still work. We're like in the, it's kind of like the internet where we had the hourglass, right? Where you're using dial tone. That's kind of what stage we're at right now, right?
Yeah.
People investing in it are looking forward in the vision. And sometimes, look, we need that. We need speculators and investors because that's what's gonna fuel that innovation.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Chuck, my favorite builder from the Northwoods of Minnesota, said he used what was the name of the account Chuck had? He said it was an Abra account. I guess that's another crypto exchange. A few years ago, we bought mostly Ethereum and Bitcoin through it, and he was able easily to transfer between wallets and his bank accounts. So for him, it was, you know, he was able to find a way that was super, and that's the interesting thing and something to be aware of with coin. Anyone takes a look at the front page of the journal's business section today, business and investing, there are like 14 other Bitcoin exchanges. So, you know, there are lots of people out there who are, you know, also.
I believe there's like hundreds of them, actually.
Yeah, it could be. But they just listed, I guess, the biggest 14 competitors. Like Binance has over 400,000 Bitcoins in its accounts, where Coinbase has 700,000. Gemini, right. I mean, they list it. Yeah, and you're right. It could be hundreds. It could be thousands. You know, it's
a different way of thinking about it because, you know, right now, when you're moving money around between banks and stuff, you have a central authority. So you feel like, you know, you make a mistake, you call them up and like they could reverse it or whatever. This is you're moving things in a wallet. You have a public key and a private key, but if you lose your private key, you lose your coins. If somebody gets access to your private key, they could take your coins. Like, it's very,
well, that's kept a lot of people away, including myself. That fear of, you know, a hack being able to take your, you know, what you consider what's an asset to you. So, but you know, like Robert says, the blockchain is the security for the future. I mean, it's just these items we're developing, and I think you said this the other day when we were talking about it. You know, when they compare it to the Internet 2.0, and I know Robert, Chuck, you know, most everyone out there remembers when the internet, when you were first on it for the first time, and there was the hourglass and the modem, the beep, you know, as it was processing, and the minutes and, you know, between pages. That's kind of where this is right now. It's in that still, you know, in a very early stage. So
yeah, it's in a very early stage, and I think that just that, you know, it's going to be a different way of thinking about how we do kind of accounting and record keeping and, you know, interacting through commerce, right? We kind of already can, you know, through credit cards and stuff, people can purchase things over the internet. So I don't think that's a problem, right? You know, right. Actually, these coins, I think initially, Satoshi Nagasaki, was that his name, who created the Bitcoin?
It's as good a guess as I would have made, for sure.
He said that he was creating it because he wanted to create a currency that you could use peer to peer. And that's not what it is today. It's actually just a storage of wealth. So if you look at Bitcoin, nobody uses Bitcoin to shop online, and nobody really uses Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. Really, they're just using Bitcoin as an alternative to gold, right? It's a storage of wealth. And it's being driven, I think, mostly by third world countries, where there's a lot of more instability in their currency, and they're afraid of maybe having it taken away or losing it through other means, and they're looking at it as this is a better storage of wealth um, than their local currencies. So you could look at South America, Africa, probably China, a lot of millionaires and billionaires out there, Russia. Um, so the growth is really being, a lot of it is driven from overseas, I think. Obviously, we have a lot of believers here in America. I think Mark Cuban, right, is and CEO of MicroStrategy, I forget his name, Kathy Woods, a lot of high tech people.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk has been
Elon Musk.
buying coins.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
A lot
no, it's an interesting space that every investor and every chameleon should definitely be aware of, and
Yeah,
try to figure out where it fits into their overall portfolio and invest in. And it's
yeah,
interesting, that's for sure.
yeah. Maybe we'll start, kind of looking at the data feeds and putting some of the information on the website, just so people could learn, right? So it's always good just to learn.
There are some early funny stories, and the goat just brought one up. People forget their, bought, hardware basically to load their coins into early
Yeah.
on, and they were password protected. People, forgot passwords. People have lost the sticks that they downloaded the code into. I mean, all sorts of things have happened that it's been an amazing run for the last 10 years, and I'm sure it will continue to produce incredible stories, incredible wealth, and incredible,
Yeah. Well,
also.
what's that one story that somebody said, I'll give you 10,000 Bitcoins if you deliver me two pies of pizza?
Well, that was actually in Silicon Valley. It was set up by early adapters to try to show how it worked. So that is a true story.
Somebody got 10,000 Bitcoins for delivering two pies of pizza.
Yeah.
And at that time, I think it was like $40. The 10,000 Bitcoins were worth maybe like $40 or $80. He just did it as an experiment, and kind of it took, I don't know, but it was, somebody didn't jump on it right away, but maybe like a week later, somebody's like, okay, here's your two pizzas, gave him 10,000 Bitcoins. I don't know if he held on to them, but what do you think it would be worth today?
I don't know, but he probably lost his
Bitcoins. Yeah.
coins.
Yeah.
Probably they're back in the pizza, just have been taken out with the trap. I mean, there's so many crazy stories. It's interesting. Actually, the chameleon community has really woken up. We got Mike is asking big thumbs up on crypto on the chameleon. Abhishek is asking, is there any plan to include crypto in MC? I would say if you are interested in seeing crypto on MC, send us an email what you're thinking you'd like to see. Support at Market Chameleon. It is something we've tossed around, but there's only so much development time in the day. So at the moment, nothing's popping up, but it is something that's in our heads for sure.
Yeah, certainly. And just in the background, we have a learning curve too, because that's not from, we didn't come from that background of crypto. We were like more from the options and in the securities field, financial security, but these are so brand new that we're learning ourselves in the background. And I think that even if we start just bringing in the data and learning as we go, it's not a bad thing, right? First thing, you just want to kind of put the information in front of you and try to figure it out. But I think just from what we're seeing, the acceptance and what's going on in the market, that, it's not going away, right? And you've got a lot of people already backing it financially, and you got regulators now also warmed up to it. I don't hear anybody like wanting to ban it. They're more like they just want to they want to figure out a way to keep it kind of safe for investors and allow it to grow. And I think that we start like reading about like what they're working on, like the decentralization of finance, the non-fungible tokens, the smart contracts, what else they could do with blockchain. And by the way, some of these other stocks could be beneficiaries of them. I think NVIDIA makes a chip, right? They make some kind of chip that the miners use in their servers. Does everybody know what the miner is?
I would say from what's coming across from most of the chameleons in the chat, they're well aware of the mining of the Bitcoin. Most of people have been asking, why don't we accept payments in Bitcoin?
So I was reading about that. Like I was thinking about it. Like it would be interesting just to see if people would pay in Bitcoin. And there are websites that actually tried that out. I think like Mark Cuban, because he owns that basketball team, started to put on the websites, we accept Bitcoin, and some other websites. And when you listen to them, they don't really get transactions, and nobody really buys anything in Bitcoin, because people who buy these currents, these coins, they're looking at them and they're moving higher and higher. So they're like, well, why should I spend it and buy?
It's almost like someone saying you could get buy something for Tesla stock, and someone not wanting to give up their Tesla stock, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And they're using it as a storage of wealth. And you could kind of think of it as like, there are people who have collectibles. People buy baseball cards, right? And they use these baseball cards because there's a limited amount sometimes of these certain baseball cards or hockey cards, whatever. And the things go up in value, but they don't use them to actually, buy stuff with them. They just store them.
Yeah, really quickly for the mayor from Naples, will you just give a quick explanation of what the miners do? Because it is interesting that they're actually performing a service every time they mine.
So the miners are, when you like, let's say we take Bitcoin as an example, right? For Bitcoin, it's a blockchain, which means that every time there's a transaction, there's a ledger, and the ledger is created by these miners, which validates the transactions. And that ledger is public, it's immutable, can be changed, because it's this complicated mathematical problems that needs to get validated by different machines. Okay. And that's when the transaction occurs. So it just validates, yes, he owns this amount of Bitcoin, it moves to here. And it's like an accounting system, but it's decentralized. And that's important because that's the only way, that you could validate and keep these records. So the Federal Reserve has their own, own records, like through this central banking system. This takes its place. So they're performing a service to validate your transaction. Now, when you validate your transaction to people, well, you have to pay for that service, right? So somebody needs to process it, to validate it, and then put it on the blockchain. And that's what the miners do. And what they do is charge you a fee, like a gas fee, in the native token. So basically, every time you transact, there's a fee that you pay in a fraction of a Bitcoin. So if you do the transaction in Ethereum, then there's a fee you pay in a fraction of Ethereum. And that's how the miners get paid. So they're performing this service to continuously, build that blockchain, to keep those records, so anybody could go in there, and those records are public, but somebody has to maintain them and validate them through this mathematical process.
Actually, Goat brings up one of your favorite terms. Quantum computing will take over mining, is what he says.
Quantum compute, that's interesting. And I want to talk about quantum computing. I mean, the thing with quantum computing, like IBM's working on it, Google, Facebook. And it's just an interesting thing. Like when you talk about quantum mechanics, there's like this thing, entanglement, which Einstein didn't even believe exists. He called it like, something like spooky actions at a distance. And we'll talk, it's at 9:30. I'll talk more about it, but that's also something that's very interesting, where basically it will be able to solve, mathematical problems at a speed like we can't imagine right now. But they are using these quantum mechanics that is such a different way of looking at the world that is not something we're used to.
All right, well, you opened up a whole Pandora's box. Tomorrow we will talk quantum computing. D, they love the commentary on, and something we will continue. It's super interesting. Thanks so much, buddy.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. Have a good trading day. Hope to see you guys tomorrow.
Trade in peace, communities.